The Scottish Labour leader says a Labour government in Westminster would deliver pay rises for 200,000 people in Scotland with its policies on wages. Anna Sarwar has been outlining Scottish Labour's election manifesto, which largely reflects that published by Labour last week. He said it would deliver change for the next generation, giving them back hope and opportunity.
A Labour government will have Scotland right at its heart, because people across Scotland are crying out for change, and they deserve governments that are focused on delivering for them. So with Labour, the Scotland office will be Scotland's voice at the heart of the next UK Labour government.
Well, our political correspondent Matthew Thompson is in Edinburgh for us. And Matthew, what are Scottish Labour offering the young in Scotland that the SNP can't?
Well, look, in a word, as they've plastered it on the front cover of their manifesto, and as you heard Anna Sarwar say a number of times there, they want to talk about change. And that's for two very clear reasons. It's because Labour in Scotland is in a slightly different position to Labour in the rest of the country, in it's facing off really against not just the incumbent Conservative government in Westminster, but also 17 years of incumbent SNP government here in Scotland as well. And that's why they're going so hard on this message of change. But in terms of what's actually in this document, a lot of it is really just a repetition in a Scottish context of what we heard Sir Keir Starmer launch at the Labour Manifesto last week. Certainly in terms of any big spending commitments, it's all stuff that's been previously announced. What is in here, though, is a bit of detail about what perhaps a Labour government in Scotland might do if it were to win the 2026 Holyrood election. But of course, that's not the one we're fighting at the moment, but that's the twin track, if you like, that Scottish Labour have to try and ride. On the one hand, talking about this election and what they want to do in terms of getting the Conservatives out of Westminster, but also what they want to do in terms of getting the SNP out of government in Scotland. The question, though, that pervades much of the coverage of Labour, and certainly in this document, is, well, actually, what does the change amount to? Because a number of independent experts have suggested that it's not really great deal of radical change proposed in terms of the actual spending commitment. So that's the question that I put directly to Anna Sarwar at the press conference.
The actual spending plans in this document are pretty tiny. They're smaller than certainly previous Labour manifestos. They're smaller than the Conservatives offering, the Liberal Democrats offering. The IFS, respected economic think tank, has called them trivial. So actually, is this less of a manifesto for change than a manifesto for keeping things largely the same with some different faces on the front cover?
There might be some that want to downplay the damage done by the Conservatives over the last 14 years. We can't downplay it. We have got lots to do to fix the mess, but we are being honest and straightforward about only making promises we know we can keep and only making spending commitments that we know we can afford. But I would much rather go into this election under-promising and over-delivering rather than what we've had under the Conservatives over the last 14 years and under the SNP for the last 17 years, which is promise the world, deliver nothing and break trust in our politics.
Now, the trouble with that, and with the other line that you'll hear from Labour, that this is just a blueprint or the starting point for change, is that really amounts to a rather woolly promise and essentially saying to the electorate, well, just trust us and we'll change some stuff when we can. Now, the electorate may do that, but it's not, strictly speaking, being honest with the public about what the spending forecasts and what the spending likelihood of a future Labour government will be over the next, let's say, 5 years plus.
OK, Matthew, thanks very much for that.